Why did the room fall so silent? The sound of the practice knife clattering across the gym floor echoed like a gunshot. For one suspended second, no one moved. The instructor lay face down, arm pinned awkwardly behind him, a look of shock frozen on his face. Phones held high in parents' hands trembled slightly, trying to catch what just happened. Children, mid-giggle only moments ago, sat frozen on their knees. Even the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead seemed quieter now, like the world itself was holding its breath. And at the center of it all stood Ren, jeans, a plain olive jacket, hair tied back without care for style. To anyone who'd passed her on the street earlier that morning, she'd have been invisible, just another mother shuffling through her son's school event. But here, with the stunned silence of 100 pairs of eyes on her, something about her had shifted. A calmness, almost bored, her posture loose but coiled, as if waiting for the next threat to show itself. It hadn't been her choice. She never wanted the spotlight. She never wanted the whispers of "that's Griffin's mom" to fill the bleachers. But she'd seen her son's face, flushed, embarrassed, shoulders drawn in under the quiet teasing of classmates. And she'd known. She had to step forward. Now the instructor groaned, rolling gingerly to his side, his confident smile nowhere to be found. The quiet in the gym cracked with one sound, the scrape of an older man's chair as he rose from the back row. He stood tall, spine rigid, eyes sharp with recognition. His right hand lifted slowly, deliberately to his brow in salute. And in that moment, every whisper turned to dust. Who was this woman? And what secret had she carried all these years, hidden even from her own son? Hours earlier, she had tried to remain unseen. Bayside Middle School's gym was crowded with parents filling the bleachers. Folding chairs creaked. The air carried the faint rubber smell of blue practice mats spread across the floor. Griffin stood at the edge of the second row in his crisp uniform, tugging nervously at his white belt. 12 years old, restless and anxious, his eyes kept darting to his mother and then away, as though her mere presence embarrassed him. Ren sat on the top bleacher, one leg crossed, posture straight even as she tried to sink into anonymity. Jeans, an old jacket, no makeup. She wasn't here for herself. This was Griffin's day, his first time performing in front of others. She wanted him to feel proud, not distracted. But distractions had a way of finding her. The woman beside her slid into place with a warm smile. "I'm Lena's mom," she extended a hand. "You're Griffin's mother, right?" Ren nodded, shook once released. "Ren." "Master is amazing," said eagerly, not noticing Ren's brevity. "Used to train celebrities in Lowe's Angels before moving here. Lena, been with him for 3 years. You picked a good program for Griffin." "He chose it," Ren replied, her gaze never leaving her son. Leaned in, lowering her voice. "Griffin mentioned you were military. My brother was Army Finance Division. What branch were you?" Ren's tone was flat. "I served clerical work, administration." Smiled, oblivious. "Ah, of course. Paperwork keeps the machine moving, right?" Ren gave nothing more. Her eyes had already shifted to the entrance, where Master appeared in dramatic fashion, bowing deeply to applause. He moved with the air of someone who loved an audience. Black belt cinched tight, stride confident, words sharp and theatrical. Ren studied him silently, every gesture exaggerated, every stance built for show, not survival. The children mirrored his movements in katas, their voices rising with sharp shouts. He encouraged them louder, fiercer. Griffin's voice was quieter but precise. His movements had a certain discipline, softer than demanded, but careful, controlled. Every time Griffin completed a sequence, he glanced toward his mother. Ren's face stayed unreadable, but her eyes softened with each glance. The demonstration ended. Parents clapped politely, and then came the moment Ren had dreaded. "Now," announced, "we'll show parents what real self-defense looks like. But first, do we have any parents here with military or martial arts experience?" Before she could sink deeper into her seat, his hand shot up. "She was military," declared, pointing straight at Ren. Griffin froze, his face drained pale. Smile sharpened. Perfect. Would you mind helping us, ma'am? Always good to show the kids what real-world experience looks like. I'd rather not, Ren said, voice low but firm. It's just a demonstration, insisted. Nothing physical, just showing the importance of technique over size or strength. Don't you agree? Whispers rustled through the crowd. That's Griffin's mom. Didn't she just do paperwork? She doesn't look like she could fight. Ren looked at Griffin. His shoulders were hunched, eyes down, ashamed before anything even began, and she knew she couldn't let this moment define him. She stood. Her movements were minimal, efficient, no wasted steps. As she walked down the bleachers, a subtle change washed over her, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Weight shifting evenly across her feet, chin level, eyes scanning exits, obstacles, angles, every second calibrated. Most saw only a reluctant mom trudging toward embarrassment, but one man at the back sat, his eyes narrowed. He'd seen this before. Even someone with basic military training, said to the students, circling her like a lion with prey, would respond incorrectly to an attack. Watch closely. He produced a blue rubber knife, holding it with theatrical menace. I'll go slow. Just defend yourself however you think best. He smirked. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Ren stood relaxed, arms at her side, face unreadable, no posture of defense, no nervousness, just stillness. If anyone had looked closer, they might have noticed details. The small scar at her temple, barely visible beneath her hair. The way her keys dangled from her pocket, a tag marked for a service animal, not a pet. The way she distributed her weight, knees loose, ready to move in any direction without thought. Lunged faster than a demonstration, a move meant to humiliate her, to draw laughter from the crowd. But the laughter never came. Ren's right hand shot forward with surgical precision, intercepting his wrist at a pressure point. She didn't resist his momentum. She redirected it. His arm bent, his own speed and force working against him. In a blur, the knife skittered across the floor and crashed to the mat, pinned and helpless. The room froze. Parents with phones forgot to breathe. Students stared wide-eyed. Griffin's jaw hung open. Ren's face didn't change. Calm, bored, almost weary. She released him after 2 seconds, stood, straightened her jacket as if nothing had happened. Silence. Then the sound of a chair scraping. The retired officer stood in the back row. He had come to watch his granddaughter, but his eyes now locked on Ren, recognition dawning. His hand rose to his brow in a crisp, reverent salute. Valor Team Alpha, he whispered, his voice trembling. Stumbled to his feet, rubbing his wrist, his confidence shattered. Parents murmured, words rippling like fire. Valor Team Alpha, Navy, who is she? Griffin looked at his mother with new eyes, off fighting with confusion. The officer stepped forward, his voice low, respectful. Lieutenant Commander, 2013. A flicker of recognition crossed her face, the tiniest nod. He stood at attention, saluted again, and this time Ren returned the salute, perfect form, silent, heavy with history. The gymnasium held its breath. And in that silence, Griffin realized his mother wasn't just his mother. She was something else, someone he had never truly known. But what had she been hiding all these years? And why did the mention of Valor Team Alpha make the officer's face pale? Even Ren herself wasn't sure how much longer the past could stay buried. Because once the past stirs, it doesn't rest again. Not without taking something in return. Why was everyone staring at him? By Monday morning, Griffin felt the weight of every eye in the hallway. Conversations stopped when he walked by. Whispers followed him like shadows. That's him, that's Griffin. His mom's the one. Did you see the video? She moved like some kind of secret agent. He kept his head down, gripping the straps of his backpack than usual. His legs carried him forward, but his mind was trapped back in the gym, replaying the moment again and again. His mother's calm face, the sudden blur of movement, the way the instructor had fallen like a child's toy in her hands. He had thought he knew her. All his life she'd been just Mom, the one who made him brush his teeth, who nagged about vegetables, who stayed up late with spreadsheets and bills. Ordinary, predictable, forgettable. Now the illusion had shattered. At lunch, when he sat alone with his tray of lukewarm pasta, the school's wrestling captain dropped into the seat across from him without asking. Reeves. Big, loud, the kind of kid who usually only noticed Griffin to make a sarcastic comment. So said, leaning in, "Is it true what they're saying? Your mom was like a female James Bond or something?" Griffin poked at his food. "She was in naval special warfare, that's all I know." "But women aren't allowed in SEAL teams," countered, lowering his voice. "Maybe not officially," Griffin muttered, "but apparently there are programs nobody talks about." Whistled, "Man, that's intense. So what else did she tell you? What kind of missions did she like?" His voice dropped further. "You know, kill people." Griffin's fork froze. The truth. He didn't know, he didn't want to know. "She doesn't talk about it," he said flatly. Studied him for a moment, then gave a grin. "Still, that's badass. If my mom was like that, I'd brag every day." Griffin looked away. He didn't feel like bragging. He felt lost. For 12 years his mother had been a locked box, and he hadn't even realized it. Now the lock had cracked open, and the shadows spilling out frightened him. That evening the house looked the same as it always had. The garden trimmed neat, the faded paint unchanged. But Griffin saw it differently now. The reinforced doorframe, the security cameras disguised as garden ornaments, the hedges cut for visibility, not beauty. Had all of it been there all along? Inside, Wren sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, papers spread across like any other night. Accounting work for local businesses. Mundane, normal, a cover, or maybe a half-truth. "Hey," she said with a small smile, "how was school?" Griffin dropped his backpack. "Weird, everyone's talking about you." "I imagine they are," she replied softly, closing the laptop. The words burst from him before he could stop them. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Wren looked at him steadily. "Sit." "I've been sitting all day," Griffin muttered, standing stubborn. "I want answers." "Fair enough," she said, leaning back. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Were you really a SEAL?" "Not exactly," she replied carefully. "Women weren't officially allowed in SEAL teams. I was part of a program that operated alongside them. Valor Team Alpha, small, quiet. Very few knew it existed." "And what did you do?" Her voice carried no pride, only fact. "Hostage extractions, close quarters combat, intelligence gathering." Griffin swallowed hard. "So, combat, you actually fought people?" "Yes." "Did you ever kill anyone?" A shadow crossed her face. "That's not something I discuss, not even with you." "Why keep it secret from me? I'm your son." "Exactly," she said, voice softening. "I wanted you to know me as Mom first, not Lieutenant Commander, not the operative with blood on her hands, just your mother." Griffin's chest ached. "So my whole life's been a lie." "Not a lie, a boundary." She reached across the table, but her hand hovered short of his. "I made a choice to protect you." "Protect me from what?" The doorbell rang. Wren's posture snapped straight, her eyes sharpening. She moved to the window with a silent, efficient grace Griffin had never seen before. "It's Colonel," she murmured. "The officer from the gymnasium." When she opened the door, stood tall, civilian clothes, doing nothing to hide his bearing. "Commander," he said formally, "I apologize for the intrusion. May I come in?" Her eyes narrowed. This is unexpected, but she stepped aside. Griffin sat rigid, watching his mother transform again, from Mom into someone else. "Your cover is compromised," said once inside. "That video, gone viral, over 1 million views. Facial recognition will catch up. It's only a matter of time before certain parties connect you with Bayside's quiet accountant." Griffin felt his stomach twist. Certain parties, what parties? His eyes met Wren's. She gave a small nod. Your mother made enemies, said bluntly. Powerful ones, people who don't forget, people who'd prefer she never lived to see retirement. The words sank into Griffin's bones like ice. Later, after left, Griffin sat across from Wren in silence. The world felt tilted, unstable. Are we in danger? He asked finally. Wren's answer was calm. There's always risk. I've spent 12 years minimizing it. But talked about some sanctuary thing, like running away. Wren's eyes flickered. A last resort, new identities, new lives. I don't want that for us. Griffin's voice cracked. Why not if it keeps us safe? Because safety isn't life, Griffin. Running forever isn't living. He stared at her. For the first time, he saw her not just as mom, but as a soldier weighing impossible choices. And for the first time, he wondered, if the enemies came, what would she do? The answer arrived sooner than either of them expected. At 3:17 a.m., the phone rang. Wren was awake before the first chime ended, answering with crisp clarity. Movement, said a voice on the other end. Blackwood, a name Griffin had never heard. Facial recognition hit. Portland. David, cleared customs 18 hours ago. Wren froze. Griffin, half asleep in the hallway, saw her shoulders stiffen, her hand reach for the hidden safe. Even his name carried weight in her silence. She pulled out a go bag, ready, waiting, untouched for years but never forgotten. Confirmed visual. 78%, reviewed the footage, it's him, with and. Her jaw tightened, mercenaries. Not the tourist kind. Sanctuary is ready, Commander, full extraction within the hour. Wren's eyes flicked to the hall where Griffin stood frozen. Her voice was calm, but her choice cut like steel. Not yet, I'll handle it my way. Minutes later, Griffin was stuffing clothes into a backpack. Mom, what's happening? Precaution, she said briskly. Pack essentials, we're taking a trip. To where? Safe house, 2 hours. Are we in danger? His voice broke. Her eyes softened for a fraction of a second. Someone may be looking for me, not for you. I intend to keep it that way. Griffin's throat tightened, but he didn't argue. Something in her tone, calm, sharp, unflinching, made him realize she had prepared for this moment his whole life. And maybe, in a way, she had been preparing him too. The car cut east through darkened streets, headlights carving tunnels in the night. Griffin stared at the town as it slipped away, the only stability he'd known for years dissolving into black rural roads. You've always been ready for this, he whispered. That's why we moved so much, why you made me memorize those numbers, why you checked the doors every night. Contingency planning, she admitted. Better to have and not need. Did you ever think about telling me? When you turned 18, she said, I would have given you the choice, to know or not. Why not sooner? I wanted you to have the childhood I never did, normal, safe. Was your childhood bad? Not bad, just military. By 15, I could strip a rifle and speak 4 languages, but I never went to a school dance, never kept a friend longer than 6 months. Griffin absorbed this in silence. A question weighed heavy in his chest. What happens if they find us? They won't. But if they do? Her voice shifted, hardening into something he had never heard before. Then I end it. And in that moment, Griffin realized the truth. His mother wasn't just running from her past. She was holding it at bay, and if it came too close, she would fight it with everything she had. For him, that night, as the car wound deeper into the wilderness, Griffin finally asked the question that had haunted him since the gym. Who are you really? Wren glanced at him, her profile sharp against the glow of the dash. She didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. Because maybe the truth wasn't in the words. Maybe it was in the silence, the scar on her temple, the weight of the gun she carried, the way she had built their entire life as if danger could walk through the door any moment. And maybe, just maybe, the truth was still coming for them. Why was she moving like that? Griffin had seen his mother walk through grocery stores, through school hallways, through parking lots 1,000 times before, but never like this. Never with her shoulders squared, her eyes sharp, her entire body shifting as though danger might leap out from behind every tree. The car had rattled up a winding dirt road until finally a cabin appeared in a clearing tucked between dense pines. Ordinary to anyone else. To Wren, it was an outpost, a contingency she had prepared years earlier. "Stay in the car," she told him firmly, sliding something from beneath the driver's seat. The glint of metal caught his eye, his breath caught. "Mom, what is that?" "A firearm," she said plainly, checking the chamber with smooth, practiced hands. "Stay put." And then she was gone, moving low, controlled, scanning the perimeter like she belonged in another world. A world Griffin was only now realizing had never left her. From the safety of the car, he watched her clear the cabin. It wasn't flashy, no action movie theatrics. Just pure, efficient movement. Steps silent, angles precise, eyes cutting across windows and corners before her body followed. It was terrifying in its calmness. When she finally waved him forward, he climbed out, his legs unsteady. Inside, the cabin was sparse. Wood stove, 2 small bedrooms, a kitchenette. Not home, but shelter. "Home sweet home," Wren said, setting the gun on the counter before pulling out a small device powering it on. "Signal jammer." Griffin dropped his backpack, staring at her. "What happens next?" "You get some sleep," she said simply. "First rule in uncertain situations, rest when you can. Tomorrow will bring enough." "How am I supposed to sleep?" "Try," she said gently. "You'll need it." Griffin lay awake long after she left the room, the thin quilt pulled tight under his chin. His ears strained for sound. Every creak of the cabin made him tense. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe this was just precaution, that she had it under control. But the image of her with the gun burned in his mind. This wasn't paperwork, this wasn't clerical work, this was something else. And if she had been hiding this much from him his entire life, what else was out there in the dark, looking for her? Wren waited until Griffin's breathing steadied before making the call. She said quietly when he answered, "We're secure at Outpost Echo." "What's the latest on?" "Rented a black SUV in Portland. Alias matches one of his old identities. Fuel purchased near Salem 3 hours ago, then nothing. Either switched to cash or went dark." "And his associates?" "And confirmed. Former Serbian Special Forces, contractors now, not amateurs." Wren's jaw tightened. "So he's not here for a reunion?" "No," said. "He's coming for blood. Commander Blackwood wants me to remind you, sanctuary remains the safest option. We can have you and the boy relocated within the hour." Her eyes flicked toward the bedroom where Griffin slept. Her voice softened. "Not yet. I won't uproot him again unless I have no choice." "Then you're choosing to engage rather than evade. You won't have official backing." "I never did," she said quietly. Was silent a moment. "I'll await your call by 900, but don't underestimate him. Plays long games." She ended the call, lowering the phone slowly. Through the window, the tree line loomed black against the night sky. For 12 years she had lived as two people, mother, operator. She had tried to bury one for the sake of the other. But the past never stayed buried. And now the choice was at her door. Morning came gray and damp, fog curling through the trees. Griffin sat on the porch, knees pulled up to his chest, staring at the slow sunrise. When Wren joined him with 2 mugs of coffee, he turned to her, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. "Enough," she lied. They sat in silence until finally he asked, "Have you decided? Are we running or fighting?" Her lips quirked faintly. What makes you think those are the only options? Because I'm not a little kid, he said. Either we disappear forever or you stop them. That's it, right? She studied him for a long moment, then she nodded. Yes, those are essentially the choices. So which is it? Neither, she said. Or both. I'm sending you to Sanctuary just for a few days. I need to know you're safe before I make my move. His eyes widened. You're sending me away without you. Temporarily, she said gently. This isn't like Karachi. I'm not going in blind. I have the advantage here. That's not fair, he snapped. We should stay together. Fair doesn't factor into tactics, she said, her voice firm but soft. I need you to trust me. Griffin's throat tightened. Promise you'll come get me when it's over. Promise we won't just disappear forever. She reached out, took his hand, something she rarely did anymore. I promise. No more running, no more hiding who we are. This ends now. He gripped her hand tightly, afraid to let go. Be careful. I just found out who you really are. I don't want to lose you now. Wren's chest ached with a pain she hadn't felt in years. You won't. 2 hours later, an unmarked SUV crunched up the dirt road. The goodbye was brief, wordless almost. Neither was prone to dramatic scenes. As the vehicle carried Griffin away, Wren stood rooted in the clearing, allowing herself one flicker of doubt before she turned back to the cabin. Now she could focus. The gun was clean, checked, reassembled. Knives laid out with quiet precision. Communications gear powered up, batteries replaced. She pulled out maps, laid them across the table, tracing possible approach routes. For 12 years she had been only a mother. Now she had to be both. For Griffin's future, she would not just endure, she would fight. That night the pines whispered with wind. A silence fell over the forest, deep and unnatural. Wren felt it in her bones before she saw the flicker of movement on the perimeter cameras. They were here. Team. 3 men, experienced, patient. They thought they were stalking prey weakened by time and motherhood. But they hadn't understood. Wren wasn't weakened, she was waiting. And she wasn't running anymore. Why did the forest feel so still? Wren crouched by the window, breath even, eyes fixed on the grainy monitor of her perimeter cameras. The wind whispered through the pines, but the forest itself felt unnatural, hushed. She knew that silence. She had felt it in places that no longer existed on maps, in alleys where shadows hid rifles, in deserts where stillness came before fire. Movement flickered at the edge of the screen, slow, calculated. They were here. And himself. She had studied men like them, fought men like them, buried friends because of men like them, patient predators, hunters who thought she was the hunted. She checked her weapon, chamber loaded, safety on, not because she feared fumbling, but because ritual steadied the soul. The cabin creaked with the weight of the moment. She exhaled once, long and slow, letting her pulse settle. An hour away, Griffin sat in his SUV, staring through the rear window. The road twisted back into the trees, hiding the cabin from view. He pressed his palm to the glass until it hurt, as if the pressure could somehow keep his mother safe. Drove in silence, eyes fixed on the road, but Griffin could feel the man watching him in the mirror. She knows what she's doing, said finally. Griffin swallowed. She always knew, didn't she? All those times we moved, all those rules she made, she was preparing for this. Yes, said, but also for you. Every choice she made with you in mind. Griffin nodded, but the knot in his chest didn't ease. Because if she was preparing for this, it meant she always knew this day would come. At the cabin, Wren's instincts whispered across her nerves like static. She counted 3, positions deliberate. They weren't rushing, not reckless. They wanted her alive long enough to make her pay. She let them come closer. The advantage was hers here, every approach mapped, every blind spot prepared. The first sign was the crunch of a branch to the north, too heavy for wildlife, deliberate weight. She moved to the back door silently, set her stance, and waited. The shadow appeared, tall, broad, weapon low. He reached for the latch. Ren struck before the sound registered. The door burst outward into his chest. He stumbled back, breath lost. She surged forward, hands precise. A strike to the wrist disarmed him. A twist of leverage dropped him to one knee. "Wrong house," she murmured. And then she shoved him face first into the dirt, zip tie cutting tight around his wrists. One down. But silence was short-lived. From the trees, a hiss of metal sliced the air. She pivoted as a knife embedded in the doorframe where her head had been a second earlier. He emerged from the brush with the grace of a predator, eyes sharp, blade already drawn for another throw. "Commander," he said in accented English, "sends his regards." Ren's gaze locked on his stance, footing wide, blade balanced, his eyes measuring distance like a carpenter with a ruler. "Tell," she said evenly, "he should have stayed retired." The blade flashed. She ducked, rolled, the knife skimming her jacket. Her counterstrike was instant, a low kick to his ankle, a shove that threw his balance off. He recovered fast, too fast. The man wasn't a thug, he was trained. They circled, silence between them broken only by breath and the crunch of pine needles. She felt the pull of her scar, Karachi whispering in the back of her mind. Teammates lost because she hadn't been fast enough, strong enough. Not this time. Lunged, her hand intercepted his wrist, redirecting momentum. The knife spun from his grip, embedding in the dirt. She drove her shoulder into his chest, using leverage, not strength. He hit the ground hard. His breath wheezed out. Her knee pinned his sternum, forearm pressed across his throat. She could end it, right here. But ending wasn't the mission. She zip-tied him, dragged him beside, and melted back into the trees. Two down. The real threat remained. Waited. Always had, always would. Ren knew he wasn't rushing in because he didn't need to. He was patient. He was watching, testing her. She stood in the clearing, chest rising steady, eyes sweeping. She knew he could see her. Somewhere in the tree line, his eyes were locked on her every move. "Show yourself," she called softly. A low laugh drifted through the pines. "You're slower than you used to be," his voice answered, thick with memory. 12 years in hiding hasn't softened you as much as I hoped." Her jaw clenched. "You should have stayed in whatever hole they pulled you out of." He stepped into the clearing, tall, lean, eyes sharp with malice. No theatrics, just cold calculation. "You embarrassed me once," he said. "You cost me everything. I intend to return the favor, piece by piece." Ren's weapon was already leveled at him, unwavering. "You won't touch my son." Smile was small, cruel. "Ah, the boy, I was curious. Does he know who you are, what you've done, how many you've killed in the name of a country that threw you away?" Ren's pulse steadied. She had heard this before. The words of men who justified their cruelty by painting themselves as victims. "You'll never get to him," she said simply. His eyes glittered. "Then I'll settle for you." The forest fell silent again. The distance between them was small. The weight of years hung heavy. Karachi, Yemen, Bosnia, places etched into scars no one else could see. This wasn't just a fight. This was unfinished history. Far down the road, Griffin twisted in his seat, unable to sit still. He could feel it in his bones. Something was happening. "Turn around," he said suddenly. Frowned, "Son. Please, she's alone. You don't understand. She doesn't let me see it, but I saw her face last night. She's scared." His grip on the wheel tightened. He said nothing. But after a long silence, he slowed the SUV, pulled to the side of the road, and turned. The vehicle rumbled back toward the cabin. Griffin pressed against the window, praying silently to a god he wasn't sure he believed in. Just let her be okay. Back at the clearing, the world hung by a thread. Shifted slightly, testing, waiting for her to move first. Ren's mind ran calculations. Angles, distances, the weight of the gun in her hand, the knowledge that he wasn't alone, that he never worked without layers. "Still Valor Team Alpha," he said, voice low, venomous. "Always the one who slipped away, not tonight." Wren's trigger finger rested steady, but her mind was already moving beyond this moment, because she could feel it. The fight wasn't here. The fight was still coming. And for the first time in 12 years, she wasn't sure how it would end. Why wasn't he shooting? Wren's weapon was steady, aimed square at its chest. He stood in the clearing with the patience of a man who had spent years waiting for this exact moment. No fear in his eyes, no panic, only calculation. He should have been nervous, outmatched, but he was. Because never showed all his cards at once. "You always were predictable," he said softly. "Protect the hostages, protect your team, protect the boy. That's your weakness. You'll sacrifice yourself to shield others. That's why Karachi went the way it did." Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. "You still carry their ghosts, don't you?" His smile was sharp. "I made sure of it." The memory clawed at her scar, the alley, the gunfire, the smoke, the silence afterward. Her team gone, her son not yet born, the choice she made to walk away from that life. "I'm not here to relive the past," she said evenly. "I'm here to make sure it doesn't touch my son." His eyes glinted. "Funny, I was just thinking the same." And then he moved. The shot rang out like thunder. Wren's bullet split bark as vanished into the trees, his movements quicker than memory. She dropped low, sweeping the clearing, her pulse hammering steady but fast. A whisper of leaves behind her. She pivoted, fired, but hit only shadow. He was circling, testing her reflexes, making her expend ammo. Her training screamed in her mind, "Don't chase. Control the ground, force him into you." She backed toward the cabin, steps precise, eyes scanning every angle. But then she heard it, the faint crunch of tires on gravel. Her heart stopped. Griffin's SUV rolled slowly up the dirt road, headlights cutting through the fog. Griffin leaned forward in the back seat, his chest tight with dread. "There," he whispered urgently, "the cabin's just ahead." His hand shot out, pressing him back. "Stay down." "Why, what's—" The windshield cracked. A bullet punched through, spiderwebbing the glass. Swore, yanking the wheel, the SUV skidding sideways. "Out," barked, already shoving his door open. "Move." Griffin scrambled out, heart hammering, as dragged him into the ditch beside the road. The SUV sat smoking, tires still spinning. "Stay low," ordered, weapon drawn, scanning the trees. Griffin's throat was dry. He couldn't see his mother, couldn't hear her. Only the forest, alive with echoes. "Mom," he whispered into the fog, his voice trembling. Wren heard the shot, heard the crash. Her chest constricted, rage and fear colliding in a way she had fought to suppress for years. They had drawn her son into it. The hunter in her mind clicked into place. No more running, no more waiting. She slipped into the tree line, silent, circling wide. Thought he controlled the ground, but he hadn't accounted for this, for her fury sharpened into focus. She moved like a shadow, calculated, efficient. And then she saw him. Crouched at the edge of the road, rifle aimed toward the ditch where shielded Griffin. His finger hovered over the trigger. Wren didn't hesitate. Her shot tore through the air, splintering the branch inches from his head. He rolled instantly, vanishing into fog. Wren's voice cut through, "We've got movement." She sprinted forward, eyes scanning, every nerve alive. Griffin's face appeared in the ditch, pale, wide-eyed, staring at her like she was someone else entirely. "Stay down," she barked, even as her heart cracked. Because the moment she had feared most had arrived. Her son wasn't just aware of her past. He was living inside it. His voice slithered through the fog, taunting. "You can't protect him forever. He'll know everything. What you've done, who you are. You'll lose him yourself without me firing a shot." Wren steadied her breath, forcing his words to slide off her like rain. But Griffin's eyes stayed on her, confusion and fear mixing into something heavier. "Is it true?" Griffin whispered, his voice shaking. "Did you really?" Her silence was an answer he wasn't ready to hear. His laughter echoed, "See, the truth rots everything it touches." Scan the fog, his weapon raised. "He's trying to separate us. Keep your head." Wren's jaw clenched. She wasn't thinking of separation. She was thinking of ending this once and for all. "Cover the boy," she said sharply. "Wren, do it." And then she was gone, slipping into the fog. The hunt stretched long minutes. The forest breathed heavy every sound. A twig snapped. A breath hissed. Wren moved through it like water, calm, deadly. And then she saw him. Stood in a clearing, rifle raised, waiting for her. His eyes glittered with satisfaction. "You always come," he said softly, "straight into the trap." Her weapon was steady, "and you always talk too much." For a second the world shrank to the two of them. The fog, the silence, the years between them collapsing into this one fragile thread. And then the thread snapped. The first shots cracked the air, trading bark and sparks. Wren dropped low, rolling behind a stump as bullets shredded leaves above her. Advanced, firing, forcing her deeper into cover. Her mind calculated every angle, ammo left, distances, wind. But her heart burned with something colder. He had aimed at Griffin. He had threatened the only thing she couldn't sacrifice. When paused to reload, she moved, fast. Her strike was clean, a tackle low, momentum driving him to the ground. The rifle skittered into the dirt. They hit hard, fists colliding, elbows striking. Years of muscle memory against years of cruelty. He was strong, but she was precise. His fist caught her cheek, snapping her head sideways. Pain bloomed, but she absorbed it, redirected it. Her knee drove into his ribs. His breath wheezed. Still he grinned. "You can't kill me, not in front of your son, not in front of yourself." Her blade flashed, pressed to his throat. For a heartbeat, everything froze. She could end it, end him, end the years of shadows. But Griffin's face burned in her mind, his voice asking, "Did you really?" Her hand trembled. Because if she crossed that line in front of him, there would be no going back. Wren's shout cracked the night. Seized the distraction. His elbow smashed into her ribs, forcing air from her lungs. He twisted free, rolling into the fog, vanishing again. Her blade sank into dirt, empty. Breath ragged. She rose, scanning, fury and restraint warring in her chest. This wasn't over, not yet. Griffin ran to her when she emerged from the trees, close behind. "Mom," his voice cracked, relief and fear tangled together. "Are you okay?" She forced her breathing steady, wiping blood from her lip. She nodded once. "I'm fine." But her eyes betrayed the truth. She wasn't fine, not at all. Because was still alive, still out there, and the shadows weren't finished with them. Not by a long shot. That night, as Griffin finally drifted into restless sleep in his SUV, Wren sat awake on the porch of the cabin. The fog had lifted, leaving the stars sharp and cold above her. She touched the scar at her temple, the place where Karachi had marked her forever. She had sworn to leave that world behind, to protect her son from it. But tonight had proved what she had always feared. The past wasn't just following her, it had caught up. And if she didn't end it now, it would take Griffin next. Why hadn't she finished it? That was the question gnawing at Wren as she sat at the cabin's table, dawn light bleeding gray through the window. Her lip was swollen, her ribs sore, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the knife pressed to his throat, the single second she had and didn't take. 12 years of shadows could have ended in one motion, but Griffin had been there, watching. His wide, questioning eyes had stopped her. And now was still alive, still circling, still waiting for his opening. She stared at the map spread across the table, roads, logging trails. She traced them with a steady finger, marking possibilities, where he could move, where he could strike. Behind her, Griffin stirred on the couch. He had insisted on staying near her instead of sleeping in the back room. Now he sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. "You didn't sleep," he said quietly. Ren didn't answer. "You could killed him," he said after a moment. "Why didn't you?" Her hand stilled on the map. She didn't look at him. "Because once you cross that line in front of your son, there's no coming back." His voice trembled. "So it's true, you have before." The silence was heavier than gunfire. "Yes," she said finally, "but that was war, missions, rules of engagement. It wasn't this. It wasn't in front of you." Griffin looked down at his hands, his throat tight. He had asked for answers, and now he wasn't sure he wanted them. Stepped in from the porch, his expression grim. "Scouts checked the perimeter. His men are gone, but's too smart to retreat. He's regrouping." Ren folded the map. "Then we don't wait, we take the initiative." Frowned, alone, with him still in play. "I'm not dragging this out," Ren said. "Every day we sit here, Griffin's exposed. This ends before he can maneuver again." Studied her. "You're not the only one who remembers Karachi. You charge in blind, you'll give him what he wants." Her eyes sharpened. "I'm not blind this time." Didn't argue further. He knew the look in her eyes. It was the same one she'd worn years ago, before missions that bent the line between survival and sacrifice. Later, Ren walked Griffin outside. The fog had burned off, leaving the pines swaying under clear morning light. "Why are you sending me away again?" he asked, already bracing for her answer. "Because you're my son," she said simply, "and because there are things I can do that you shouldn't have to see." "I've already seen more than I was supposed to," he shot back. His voice cracked, but his eyes didn't leave hers. "You keep saying you're protecting me, but what if the way you protect me is what makes me lose you?" Ren's chest ached. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that everything she did was to hold on to him, but the words stuck. Because she knew the truth, her line of work, her decisions, had already taken pieces of her away. She crouched to meet his eyes, her voice softer. "I won't let him take anything from us, not this time, but I need you to trust me just a little longer." He swallowed hard, then nodded, but the look in his eyes told her trust wasn't simple anymore. SUV rumbled down the road hours later, carrying Griffin to a deeper sanctuary. The boy kept his face to the window, watching the trees blur past. He pressed his hand against the glass, as if leaving fingerprints was a way of anchoring himself to the life he was leaving behind. Beside him said nothing. There were no words that could soften the fracture of being torn from the only person who had always been constant. Griffin whispered anyway, almost to himself, "Come back to me." Back at the cabin, Ren stripped her cover, the civilian jacket, the quiet jeans, the mask she'd worn for 12 years. She laced her boots, strapped her holster, checked every knife, every magazine. She tied her hair, pulled on black sleeves that blended into shadow. The woman who stood in the mirror was Mom. She was something older, sharper. Lieutenant Commander Ren, Valor Team Alpha. And she was done running. The hunt began at dusk. She moved through the forest like water, every step deliberate, every pause measured. She knew was watching. She wanted him to watch, to feel her presence closing in. She found the remnants of his camp, an hour out, cold fire pit, discarded wrappers, tracks leading east. His men had been disciplined. No careless marks, no broken branches, but not disciplined enough. She saw what they thought they'd hidden, a second set of tracks circling, a flank. She smiled faintly. He was trying to box her in. Let him try. Far away, in the safety of a hidden compound, Griffin sat at a table, untouched food in front of him. Stood by the window, speaking quietly into a secure phone. "Blackwood says the net is tightening," murmured. "Smen won't risk open roads. He'll try to pull her into a choke point. She'll know it, but still." Griffin interrupted, his voice sharper than before. If you know she's walking into a trap, why aren't you helping her? Turned, because she told me not to, and because if I intervene I draw more eyes, more fire. Your mother works best alone. She's not alone, Griffin said fiercely. She has me. His expression softened. Not for this part, son. Your part comes after, when she comes back. Griffin clenched his fists, but deep down a terrifying thought gnawed at him. What if she does? Wren waited until darkness fell fully. The forest was a black ocean around her, each sound a ripple. She crouched near the ridge, eyes adjusting, ears tuned. She heard them before she saw them. Low voices in Serbian, moving cautious, too cautious. She melted deeper into shadow, circling wide, the rhythm of their steps marking their positions in her mind. 3 of them, not his dogs, testing the perimeter. She could take them, quietly. 1 step at a time. The first fell with a choke hold, his body lowered silently to moss. The second with a strike so precise his weapon never fired. The third heard the rustle, turned too late. Her knife glinted once, then silence returned. 3 more gone. But not him. Never him. Watch from the eyes narrowing as the radio on his hip went dead. She's still sharp, he muttered, too sharp. He lowered his binoculars, a faint smile tugging his lips. Good, the game is still worth playing. By midnight, Wren stood alone in a clearing, her breath clouding in the cold air. She knew he was near. She could feel it in her bones. She raised her voice, calm, steady. This ends tonight. The forest answered with silence. Then a laugh, low, familiar. You always did want closure, his voice echoed through the trees. Let's see if you can pay the price. Wren steadied her weapon, her heartbeat slow and deliberate. She wasn't afraid of the price. Not anymore. Because the cost of doing nothing was higher, it was Griffin, his life, his future. And she would never let the shadows claim him. Not while she could still fight. Why was the night so quiet? Wren crouched in the clearing, every nerve stretched tight. The forest around her was too still, the kind of stillness that came just before an ambush. She felt it in alleys in Bosnia, in deserts outside, in the ruins of Karachi. That silence wasn't peace. It was teeth waiting to bite. She shifted her grip on the pistol, eyes scanning, listening for the breath out of place. Still the best I've ever hunted, his voice drifted through the trees. You hear everything, feel everything, but even you can't stop what's coming. Wren kept her breathing steady. He wanted her rattled. He wanted her pulled by anger, by memory. Step out, she said calmly. A laugh answered her, low, mocking. You had me once, blade at my throat, and you hesitated. Why? For the boy. Her jaw tightened. That's your weakness, always protecting someone. You can't kill me without losing yourself in his eyes, and I'll use that until it breaks you. Miles away, Griffin sat in safe compound, unable to stay seated. He paced the room, chest tight, every instinct screaming. I can't just sit here, he burst out. Set down his phone, tired eyes fixing on him. Son, your mother. She's out there alone. She's never alone, said firmly. She carries every lesson, every mission, every ghost with her. That's more than most soldiers ever had. Griffin shook his head, frustration boiling. That doesn't mean she's invincible. No, admitted. It means she knows exactly what she's walking into, and if I know Wren, she's not walking out without finishing it. Griffin's chest ached. For the first time he understood, she wasn't just fighting for survival, she was fighting for him. The first bullet cracked the night. Wren dropped low, rolling behind a fallen log. Bark splintered. Fire came in sharp bursts, controlled, trying to drive her into the open. She counted his shots, lips moving silently. 1, 2, 3. Silence, reload. She sprang forward, moving left, circling him. Her steps were light, almost soundless on the pine needles. She'd trained for this, outnumbered, outflanked. Survival wasn't strength, It was timing. Another burst tore through the clearing. She dropped again, feeling bark explode beside her cheek. His voice followed, sharp with amusement. Still fast, but slower. I can hear it in your breath. You're not the same woman from Karachi. No, she muttered under her breath, sighting down the pistol. I'm better. She squeezed off 2 rounds. Sparks flew from a rock inches from his cover. He hissed, shifting position. She moved again, always circling, always pressing. At the compound's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, face tightening. Movement on the grid, he muttered. Griffin froze. What does that mean? It means isn't working alone tonight. He brought more than and. Griffin's stomach dropped. She doesn't know. She'll figure it out, said, though his voice carried less certainty than before. Griffin clenched his fists. He wasn't supposed to be part of this world, but now it felt like it was swallowing him anyway. Wren ducked behind a boulder, heart rate steady, mind calculating. Too much silence, too clean. She closed her eyes, let the forest speak. A snapped twig behind her, a faint shift of air. Not someone else. She spun, fired. A shadow dropped with a muffled cry, rifle clattering into the ferns. Her lips pressed thin, so was right. Hadn't come with 3, he had more. A pincer, a slow squeeze. Getting tired yet? His voice taunted through the trees. She didn't answer, talking wasted breath. She shifted higher ground, boots silent on the slope, eyes sweeping. For every step she took, she pictured Griffin's face. His eyes wide with questions, his voice breaking when he asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" She couldn't let that boy become just another ghost. The firefight stretched into minutes that felt like hours. Men pressed, disciplined, moving like a net. She thinned them one by one, patience her sharpest weapon. But for every man who fell, his voice filled the forest again. "You'll run out of bullets, Commander." "I don't need many," she whispered. And she didn't. She trained her whole life to make each shot matter. But fatigue crept in. Her ribs burned from earlier strike. Her lip throbbed. She could feel the drag of years, not weakness but weight. She crouched behind a tree, breath slow, mind sharper than her body. A whisper of steps came from the left, too light for a younger man maybe. She pivoted, struck low, the heel of her boot sweeping his legs. He went down hard, her pistol to his temple. She paused, breath heavy, eyes searching his face. Young, too young. She tightened the zip tie, dragged him aside. Not every fight needed to end in silence. But's laughter echoed again. Still merciful, still weak, that's why I'll win. Griffin couldn't take it anymore. He stood suddenly, eyes blazing. I have to go to her. Turned, eyes sharp. No, you'll only distract her. I already am a distraction, Griffin shouted. His chest heaved, words spilling raw. That's what's said, isn't it? That she'll always sacrifice herself for me. Then I need to show her I'm not just someone to protect. I'm not just baggage she has to carry. His jaw clenched. He wanted to argue, but he saw it in the boy's eyes, the same fire he had once seen in Wren's. He sighed, lowering his head. If you go, you'd better listen to everything she says. No heroics, no noise, understand? Griffin nodded fiercely. Then God help both of you, muttered. Back in the forest, Wren crouched low, pistol steady. She knew was close. She could feel his eyes. And then the faintest sound. Not. Her heart stuttered. Mom. Her blood turned to ice. She whipped around and there he was. Griffin, pale, wide-eyed, moving toward her through the dark. What are you doing here? She hissed, fury and fear colliding. I couldn't let you do this alone, he whispered. Her chest ached. She wanted to scream, to drag him back, to lock him behind steel walls forever, but there was no time. Because laugh slid through the trees, sharper than ever. Oh, this is perfect. Wren's instincts roared. She shoved Griffin behind her, pistol rising, scanning the trees. Don't move, she ordered him, not a sound. Stepped from the shadows at last. rifle leveled, eyes glittering with triumph. "There it is," he said softly, "your weakness, right where I knew it would be." Wren's body coiled, her finger tightening on the trigger. She could feel Griffin's breath behind her, fast and terrified. And she knew this was the moment everything had been building toward. The past, the present, the boy she'd raised and the man who had haunted her. Only one would walk away. The forest held its breath. The night froze. And the final fight began. Why did everything feel like it had slowed down? Wren could hear Griffin's breath behind her, shallow, ragged, terrified. She could see his eyes gleaming in the half-light of the forest, his rifle steady, his grin cruel. And in her own body she felt the burn of every scar, every loss, every moment that had led to this clearing. It wasn't just another mission. It was the reckoning she had avoided for 12 years. "Step aside," said softly, "or I put him down first, and you get to live long enough to watch." Griffin tensed. She felt it in the way his hand brushed against hers, searching for some anchor. She didn't look back. She couldn't. "This ends tonight," Wren said, her voice calm. Chuckled, "Yes, but not the way you think." The first shots tore through the silence. Wren shoved Griffin hard to the ground, pivoting, firing. Rounds ripped bark from the trees, one slicing through her sleeve, grazing her arm. Pain flared, but she forced it down, feet moving fast, angles sharp. "Stay down," she shouted over her shoulder. Griffin pressed against the earth, dirt in his mouth, heart hammering. He could see flashes of light, hear the crack of gunfire, the heavy thud of boots circling. And he realized his mother wasn't just fast, she wasn't just skilled. She was something else entirely, a force, a rhythm, a storm given human shape. Pressed harder, firing in short bursts, moving with the patience of a man who had stalked prey his whole life. "You can't win, Commander," he called. "I'll bleed you out piece by piece." Wren's breath came steady, not panic, not fear, calculation. One magazine, 3 rounds left. She dropped low, let him press closer, let him think she was cornered. And then she struck rolling left, firing twice, the muzzle flash lighting his face. One round grazed his cheek. The other cracked his rifle stock, sending him stumbling. His snarl split the night. He tossed the ruined rifle aside, pulling a knife. "This is how it ends," he spat. "Up close, just like Karachi." The memory slammed into her, the alley, the gunfire, the screams of her team. The knife that had cut across her temple, leaving the scar she still carried. She swallowed the ghost. Karachi was past. This was now. She holstered her pistol, drew her own blade. And the clearing closed in around them. The knife fight was brutal, fast, flesh and bone colliding in silence except for grunts and the scrape of steel. Strikes were heavy, meant to overwhelm. Hers were precise, meant to survive. He slashed, she dodged. He lunged, she redirected. But every movement sent fire through her ribs, every twist reminded her she wasn't 25 anymore. "You're slowing," he hissed, pressing harder. But Wren's eyes never wavered. "I only need one opening." Behind the log, Griffin clutched a rock, useless in his small hand, his heart breaking. He wanted to run to her, to help, to do something. But her voice rang in his head, "Don't move, not a sound." Tears stung his eyes as he watched her fight a man who seemed unstoppable. And in that moment, he understood why she had hidden all of this from him. Not because she was ashamed, but because she knew how heavy it was to carry. The fight reached its edge, drove her back against a tree, his blade inches from her throat. His breath was hot, his grin feral. "You lose," he growled. "You always lose what you love." Wren's hand shot up, catching his wrist. Her other hand twisted her blade, angling up. For a heartbeat, they locked eyes. And she whispered, "Not this time." Her knife slid under his ribs with surgical precision. His breath hitched, eyes widening. He staggered back, blood dark on his shirt, knife slipping from his fingers. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. And then he collapsed. The forest swallowed the sound. Silence. Wren stood over him, chest heaving, blade slick in her hand. She stared at the body, waiting for the ghosts to rise, for the old weight to crush her. But instead, she felt Griffin's small, trembling hand on her arm. She turned. His face was pale, streaked with dirt and tears, but his eyes were locked on hers. "You won," he whispered. Her throat tightened. She dropped the knife, pulled him into her arms, holding him so tight she could feel his heartbeat against hers. "No," she said softly, voice breaking. "We won." Arrived minutes later, his men sweeping the clearing. He looked at its body, then at Wren. "It's done," he said quietly. Wren shook her head. "It's never done, but it's finished enough." Studied her, then glanced at Griffin, who clung to her side. He saw too much. Wren met his gaze. He saw exactly what he needed to, not who I was, who I am. Nodded slowly. He didn't argue. The drive back to the compound was silent. Griffin sat pressed against his mother's side, refusing to let go of her hand. When they arrived, dawn was breaking. The first light painted the sky gold, soft and fragile. Griffin turned to her as they stepped out of the SUV. "Will it ever be over?" he asked, his voice small. Wren crouched to meet his eyes, brushing dirt from his cheek. "The past never leaves us, Griffin, but we don't have to let it decide who we are." He studied her for a long moment, then he nodded. "You're not just Mom anymore," he whispered. "You're both." Her eyes burned, but she smiled, a rare, full smile that transformed her face. "That's all I've ever wanted you to see." That night when Griffin finally fell asleep in a safe bed, Wren stood alone outside, the stars sharp above her. She closed her eyes, letting the quiet wash over her. She thought of her team, of Karachi, of the years she had tried to hide. And she thought of Griffin's hand in hers. For the first time in 12 years, she felt like the two halves of her life had joined. Not soldier, not mother, both, whole. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. And tonight, it had spoken louder than any word ever could.